Make your day richer than it was before. Got some good times knocking upon your front door.
Well, welcome to the show, everyone. Thanks for being here. I know they're still cheering for us, still cheering. My first guest is back to give us another chance to learn how to show up in life for ourselves and for others. Her book, How We Choose to Show Up, is available now. Please welcome back to the show, Marcy Axelrod. Thank you, Marcy. Welcome. Come.
Richard, thank you so much. It is so great to be here.
It's been so fun having you here the last couple of weeks. To talk about showing up and all the different ways to do that. And today we're talking about authenticity, which I think I love that word. I think it was my word of the year a couple of years ago. I usually pick a word. And yeah, so this is what we're talking about today with Marcy. She has a great book, How We Choose to Show Up, available on Amazon. Where do you want to start?
Well, I'll tell you, Richard, what just happened yesterday. I was presenting in front of a very senior audience of fabulous women. And one of the first questions that came up, and I saw everybody nod and agree, is, Marcy, when I'm in moments that really matter, what comes up for me is some version of I need to be seen as, I need to do this a certain way so that this person will have a certain impression about me. And I don't listen. And I spend so much of my time kind of thinking about what I'm going to say next. I totally miss it. And inevitably, I'm disappointed. Yes. So that
in themselves or in just the entire experience?
Oh, both. And I think a lot of people personalize. And then there's that voice in their head that doesn't go away of like, how did you blow that? Like, why did you show up that way? Criticism and things like that, which of course then fuel the insecurity, and then you go around the merry-go-round again.
Yeah, that's true. So true. Because it kind of becomes, I guess, I'm gonna make it my own personal story, but like for doing this, right? Like I want to show up, I want to be present, but there's that like performance aspect when you're out doing something, but I also want to be here with you and be myself and just live in the moment.
That's right. And I want you to be here, Richard. I'm with you. And what the show up continuum shows everybody is that as we move from thinking just about ourselves and in our self role, and we start to recognize, our point of contact with the world, that presencing, is within a situation, whether we're with someone or walking in the park. And then once we are able to recognize how a situation works and that it's this alive, dynamic thing where we are responding to what's going on. So it's not just a self anymore. It's a self responding to others, to nature, to the freezing cold, whatever it may be. Now we're a member of something that's impacting us, and we're impacting it because we're each other's environment. But the point here about getting to being truly authentic is that once you start to notice and tune in to your situation, you right away start to feel what's going on. You're feeling with the person. You're feeling interconnected with nature or your pet or whatever's going on. Once you feel with, you enact care. And that is authentic. So now we've moved from here to here. And notice there's no way to do it without feeling a reset in your body. So I just went from just showing up before to truly showing up, right? My tone changed, my tempo, my tenor, like everything about my body changed. And I have a feeling, Richard, I'll just ask it. Did yours too?
Yeah, I felt like an internal like sigh of like, okay, like I got a little like just more, which is sometimes happens on the show where I end up like comfortable and I'm down like this talking to someone because it's just two people talking.
Right. That. Thank you. So you're saying we're human to human again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's a quote that I want to read to you here. Because when we're feeling any version of stress or threat or tiredness or hunger, we can't get to that presencing to feel with and enact care. So there's a researcher by the name of Dr. Stephanie Chiappo, and I'm going to quote her. She found that a brain that's lonely detects threat from others twice as fast as non-lonely brains. And she goes on to explain even a subtle hyper vigilance of like, I need to be seen as, or I need to be impressive, causes us to misread harmless or even welcoming people and situations as threats. So the point here is that if we're in some version of get it done mode or performance mode, the message our body's going to get from the external world is going to be a barrier to our being authentic and showing up as we choose.
How do you start to make that change? Like, what's my question? How, when you're used to doing that, right? When that's your mode every day, all day, how do you start to get yourself out of that?
Yeah, definitely. And I talk about this. I mean, that quote was from, I think, chapter 3 or 4 of my book. And I've got the answer to this question too, off the top of my head. So the way to get quote out of it is to know how to there are 2 or 3 things. First, know how to reset your body. But the way to really create a foundation where you can start to show up that way, know yourself. It's what's called being grounded in yourself. The way to do this is you've got to journal, you've got to reflect and ask yourself, what's going on? Why, what do I feel? And by the way, it's probably fear, concern that you're being judged, things like that. When you reflect on what's going on, you can then befriend it, relate to it in a different way. It isn't against anymore. It's more with and for, because it's showing you who you are. So invite it into tea and sit down with it and say, what, talk to me. What is going on? Why are you here? Why do I feel you? When you are grounded in yourself, that's a huge next step. Meditate, have a therapist, have a partner who you can talk to and say, this keeps coming up. The other thing that's really important is try to start out your day in that presencing mode. So like when you first wake up, don't just wake up and hop out of bed. Stop right there. And in a calm way, you'll start to notice things going on around you. So I'm gonna stop there. The book has a lot of other recommendations, but those are kind of the top few. Be grounded in yourself and also welcome in the emotion and get curious about them.
Yeah, I like that because it's not. That's what I was going to say. Is you run into whatever situation it is, you go to work and then you're in the middle of it and you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this. I should have done that. I forgot to meditate. I didn't. And it's showing, like, maybe preparing for me when every morning when I do the show, like there's a moment before I go on that I take for myself, that I don't look at phones, I don't look at email, and I'm here and I'm, because I'm also, I get nervous during every show because I'm like, did I hang up the right thing? Am I going to screw something? Am I going to press the wrong button? Like there's a lot. So I'm like, but you know what? This is also, if it happens, it happens. And so it's part of my, like, this is part of your day. Like, this is part of what makes the show fun. If you screw something up, if you can go with it. instead of making that overwhelming where I could be like, oh, I don't want to do it because something might screw up.
Wow. So you just explained switching from just showing up, right? That level 2, that 80% of us live in 80% of the time, where we're just like on the go and getting stuff done, but not recognizing the meaning, the significance, the impact, right? And what you said is you were able to relate to it in such a way of like, this is what you do, right?
Mhm.
And go with it, and it's okay. So you gave yourself permission. Number 1, you gave yourself acceptance. Number 2, you have an awareness of it so that you can relate to it differently. This is exactly what that continuum is meant to help us with, because everyone is on it, moving back and forth between barely there, just showing up, and truly showing up all day long, and frankly, all night long. Like there's a lot of people who are, we don't sleep very well, and we're consciously on that thing, even if
Yes. Yes. Yes, that happens all the time, or it used to happen all the time. I would wake up and then I couldn't go back to sleep because everything was flying through my head.
So how did you address that?
Therapy,
Mm,
and also accepting. It was a lot of acceptance of like, well, this is whatever's going to happen tomorrow during the show or at that meeting is going to happen. Like, you worrying about it isn't going to change the outcome. It's just going to make you not sleep.
mhm. Was that enough to help you? Because that's a cognitive thing. It's not necessarily an embodied realization, or did it become that?
It wasn't like, it took a long time for me to like to continue to say that to myself. Like probably years of saying that, of like, you worrying is not, that's not changing the outcome. Like I've said that to myself a lot over the last couple of years, and it has helped me of like, well, then let's enjoy that. We're like switching my fear or nervousness into excitement about something, about what could happen.
Right. Okay. And that shift worked just by thinking about
Yeah.
it for a long enough time, and just saying like, this is right. This is real. This is true.
Yeah. And I mean, I still get anxious and nervous about a show, but I have to then go, okay, but it could be it's going to be a really fun show. It's going to be, these are people who also want to be here. These are, and they're also probably going through the same thing of, I hope I don't say something stupid. I hope I have the answers to his questions. Cause everybody gets nervous. We're, like you said, we're all on that continuum.
Right.
And I recognizing that the people on here are also on it.
Mm-hmm.
And like we said last time, like, and we're in it together. Like, we're all here together. So to just embrace that.
So yes. So what you're saying is you still feel the lived experience of the concern, but it doesn't control you, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
we're all in it together, right? So that's the message of our third role, as a member of something beyond ourselves. Call it society, a family, a tribe, a sports team, a company, right? I have a whole chapter on what it really means to bring to life what you said around, we're all in it together. And I think that's probably what we should talk about next time, because that's, I've got a lot of neuroscience and psychology examples about how we truly are interconnected, as far more as leaves on a tree than as two people competing for a VP title, right? Or to get more likes or votes or whatever it may be. I think it's really, really important that people recognize mathematically and scientifically what connectedness truly is, and so that we can live with that, everyone's just here together.
Yeah. We're all just trying to do the best we can. If we can help each other. Yeah.
Hopefully, yes.
These 15 minutes fly by every time with you.
Oh.
We need to do like a Barbara Walters special, a 3-hour marathon through it all. Thank you so much for jumping on and hanging out.
Richard, it is so my pleasure. Thank you so much.
Her book, How We Choose to Show Up, is available. Go get it, and we'll be back next week
Yep.
with Marcy. We'll be right back after this. Don't go away.
You know what would be better than watching this commercial? Watching your commercial. Scan the QR code or visit makeyourdayricher.com/advertising to start promoting today.
We're back, and Marcy so nicely gave everybody in the studio audience a copy of her book, How We Choose to Show Up. That was so nice of her. All right, our next guest has traveled the world making people laugh. He's a British comedian who's lived and performed everywhere from Australia to the UK to the Netherlands. I'd like to see where he's at today. We'll see. And he's not just a comedian, he's also an improviser, a storyteller, an actor, a writer, and a musician. So please, from the Globetrotting, Stephen Morgan. Good morning.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm great. No, I'm doing good. How are you doing?
I am fantastic. Thanks for being here. It's morning here, but where are you and what time is it?
So right now I'm in Utrecht, where I live in the Netherlands. I've been living in the Netherlands for 5 or so years now, and it is 4:15 in the afternoon. So
Okay.
it's no longer morning, and at this time of year, it's already getting slightly dark, which is very depressing, and I'm looking forward to those days when that's not the case.
As a comedian, are you usually used to being up during the day, or are you the one that's like you're sleeping during the day and then you're up all night?
No, I'm pretty regular. I don't know. I don't, I get up, like my body clock means that I just get up when I get up, which is usually early-ish anyway. So, I'm not too bad with that sort of thing. And at my age as well, kind of like I'm not going through the night. So, it's not, I would say regular hours, essentially.
Okay. Regular office hours. So your day is ending
Exactly.
soon, hopefully. Yes.
Yeah, pretty
how
much.
long-
Yeah.
Yeah. How long have you been? I mean, your resume of all the things you've done, acting, comedy, improv, writing, how long have you been an entertainer?
Yeah, it's a good question. Because when I sort of first became an adult, one of my like ambitions from basically childhood was just music, being in bands. That was my idea of like what like my future was going to be. I was so deluded. That was something which I really enjoyed. But like, if you look at how the music industry is now compared to say even 20 years ago, and even 20 years ago, it was still like, that these are kind of like pipe dreams of having like a full-time like career in music where you're actually being able to pay bills and not worrying about things was just wild. It was just way too ambitious, and the ideas of like doing it, of just being in a band with some of your friends, felt, it was something that was fun, and I have no regrets doing it. But at the same time, like looking back, it's just like, wow, what the heck? Like we were never going to make it, this was never going to be bigger than what it was. I mean, we're all kind of like relatively introverted guys as well. And so we also had this kind of challenge because we made electronic music, and it was like, well, people who we've talked to say like, oh, hey, how do you get bigger? What do you do? And they were like, oh, you got to go to all these club nights around London where we were living. And you've got to just like, network, just talk to people and get to know people. And the idea of going to like a club night and just like talking to people who you kind of don't know as like from labels representatives, I'm just like, that is like a nightmarish situation. The last thing I want to do is go up to someone who's like that and just say, hi, you don't know me, but I would cringe at myself. Even just saying it now, I'm just like, no, it was never going to happen. So instead, I kind of reached a certain age where I was like, maybe music isn't the thing. Maybe actually, because I also like really enjoyed the performing arts, or the performance part of it personally on that level. And so, I really got into improv and stand up, and that's now where I'm spending basically most of my time.
Were you a funny kid, or when did you kind of realize that was a talent of yours?
Yeah, definitely. Like, yeah, I was definitely the kid who didn't take anything seriously and would just make jokes at everything and anything to an extent that it was actively annoying for the people around me. Where sometimes it would be funny, but there were also times where it was like, now is not the time to be making comments like that, Steve. Like, calm down. It's like, let's actually have a real conversation. And funnily enough, it's actually getting like older and getting really stuck into stand up and improv when that part of me just died. It's so funny how actually doing something where you are actively in front of audiences thinking about like, how can I build material, how can I make things funny, and also being surrounded by other comedians who are always cracking jokes or can't take anything quite so seriously. There was like this one point where a part of me went like, guys, just like, can we be serious a minute? Can we just actually talk about anything else other than like making jokes about everything? And so now I have this kind of duality in my brain where part of me wants to make jokes and have fun and everything, but knows that there's a time and a place.
I mean, that kind of bounces off what Marcy was talking about, our first guest of like, and that was a
Yeah.
question I was going to ask is how do you, because your business, your career is so performance based, how do you handle it when you go to a gig and you're not feeling it, or you show up to do an acting job, and like, how do you stay present like that?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I do think that especially earlier on, those sorts of things could be quite devastating because, of course, like performance arts, you are having to take things to another level at those times of performance, and there's a part of your brain, especially when starting out, that's just like, this is like so nerve-wracking. Like all of my evolutionary instincts when people like a mass of people are staring at me is that I'm about to be attacked, that this is a bad sign and something terrible is going to happen. And so there's always that adrenaline, and of course there's always shows that go very badly. This is you always got to sort of take risks, and at the start as well, it happens a lot more. And I do feel like that is the hardest part, is right at that beginning part, because there's this whole thing in your brain as well where if you've say done 2 performances ever, the first one went really well and the second one went terribly, that means 50% of your performances were absolute garbage. They went terribly, and it was just like a traumatic experience all around. However, if you start scaling that up, you've done like say 100 or so shows, and suddenly now it's like, okay, there are still bad ones that come. They're less often and they're less frequently, but they're mostly good shows. It's like you have another bad show. Okay, now it's like 62.4% of shows are good ones. It's like the relative difference between everything now just becomes less significant. Everything just starts to feel a little bit more like, well, it's part of a bigger thing. It's like it's not the end of the world when it doesn't go the way you want it to go. I mean, improv has a core thing where it's like failure is built in. Like, you've got to fail. That's the only way you're going to get better. And so if you can't handle failing, well, maybe it's like a good opportunity and a good way to start getting used to it and actually sort of celebrating it, make those mistakes and be
Yeah,
happy and fine with them.
that's so smart. You have a career that you don't necessarily go to an interview for and get a title, and it's now. At what point in your career did you take the title of comedian, of all of these things? Because I think there can be so much in like the entertainment field that's like imposter syndrome, and I don't know, am I a comedian? Am I a talk show host? Like, at what point were you like, you know what? No, I am.
No, yeah, it's a really good question, actually, and it's giving that introduction as well, because I do work a day job, at times as well. It's kind of depends on what the needs are and what's going on, because of course the entertainment industry generally is a lot more up and down. There are times when there's more happening, and there's times when there's less. And frankly, like the most consistent area is either corporate work or training or teaching people. Basically, those are the ones where you've actually got some consistency. Everything else is very sort of like, sometimes you feel like, oh, this is all on the up, and then you got like a 2-month streak of just like nothing happens, and you're like, something is not good here. What happened? You haven't got time to really think about what changed. But But yeah, so to me, when I look at those sorts of things and I'm thinking about like imposter syndrome, I think that I have it to an extent with everything permanently. Like, I think that there is perhaps certain traits or certain ways that you're raised or certain things that people will say. And some people maybe are able to sort of never really feel as much of that and be happy with where their place is in the thing that they are. But from, I definitely come from a background where it's very much like any sort of, I don't know what you would call showing off or saying that you are a thing would be discouraged. It's all about humbleness. It's all about just saying you're not, you're nothing really. You're just trying to downplay everything. And so when I say those things, I think that I know that those at least are things which I've done professionally multiple times, been paid for. I'm not going to say that like I'm the best at all of these things. Like, as I said with the whole music thing at the beginning, I'm pretty good on guitar and I've got like a voice that can do pretty good things in a certain range. But like at the same time, I, meet plenty of people who I just see them perform and I just think, well, I'm not that. And I'm never going to be like that. That is just wild. That's so talented in the things that they can pull out. But it's more about that kind of thing of knowing that there are many things over the years that I've tried out, that I've gotten to a certain level with. I mean, there's other things I've done as well that I don't include in that list because I know I'm not good at them. And I know that like, I'm probably not going to do them again, even if they're things I've spent many years doing. But yeah, for me, it's more like, okay, these are the ones which I'm like, okay, if someone were to say, okay, prove it, then I'd have a chance of being able to do that.
What are you up to now? What are you working on? I think I saw on your website that you've got some dates upcoming that you're performing, right?
Yeah, a big one actually is next week. There's the Impro Amsterdam Festival. So that's an improvisation festival. I'm part of the cast of that festival, the local cast. So that's a week-long festival. I think it's the biggest in Europe. And so it's got performers coming from all over the world. Some of them big names in the improv world. I mean, the improv world is quite small, but and self-contained. But there's Jill Bernard, who is in huge theater in the US, who I'm very excited to be playing with as part of this festival. She's actually the person who wrote the first improv book that I ever read when I was learning out first time. So I definitely got that kind of. I guess I've got that imposter syndrome in that sense for that one, because when I get there, I'll be like, yeah, I know I do this. I promise.
I read your book, so I have to. Yeah,
I read your book. Exactly. I remember the.
If you're not good at it, it's her fault, is really what that means.
Yeah, there you go. No, I never thought of it that way. Yeah, I'll throw that one in there, see how it goes.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of shows as part of that. So next week I'm pretty excited for it. But yeah, it's going to be, there's 3 shows a night, every night for the weeks. It's in North Amsterdam, and there's still some tickets available. I know some shows are sold out now and everything. But it's a very exciting thing for me. It's coming up.
Awesome. What is the best way that people can connect with you and see where you're at and performing?
Yeah, I'm on all of all the regular social media sites. I've got the links, which I'm sure, and my website as well, which has the links to the social media sites. I try to keep everything updated as much as possible, especially for performances. And then, if there's something worth sharing more than that, then I share that also. But that's basically it. I have like little reminders that I set up for myself to say, like, keep those things updated, because otherwise I forget. I know some people are like terminally, online and ready to update those sorts of things, but I regularly forget. So unless I have that little reminder that says like, do it now, then it never happens.
I just made my list this morning because every day after the show, I make clips and then I forget to post them. So I have to make a note of like, did you post your clips? All right, I forgot.
Yeah, I get it. Yeah, and having that in that tone as well. So when you read it back, you go like, no need for the attitude, man. Come on, pass me. Don't do that.
What do you love most about your life right now?
Oh, wow. For me, I'm pretty. Things are like pretty good. I mean, like right now, so me and my wife, she's Portuguese. We live here in Utrecht. It's a beautiful city. I love living in the Netherlands. I'm originally from the UK, but as we all know, there's all sorts of political bonfires happening worldwide, and that also technically that also applies in the Netherlands. But I think that what I find about the Netherlands is it's got this kind of weird system where it's like what do you call it, a coalition of all these different parties, and that even when the voting changes, nothing really changes because everything's about like everyone has to come to some sort of agreement. So it's kind of comical that like even when like things politically change in directions you don't want them to, doesn't actually change that much because no one can really get things done, which I know sounds like a terrible thing, but at the same time it's like at times like these you're like, oh good, yeah, it's kind of handy that like people can't do things quickly.
Listen, it doesn't sound so bad. It doesn't sound so bad
right now. That's it. Yeah, when I see yeah, anyway, we won't go into that, but
no, that's
yeah,
a different show.
Right, exactly.
That's awesome. Well, I thank you so much for being here, for ending your day with us. I appreciate it. And congratulations on all the success. You've got so much going on. I love it.
Oh, thank you so much. No, it's been really nice to join you. It's yeah, definitely a good way to end the day.
Come back anytime and good luck next weekend.
Thank you, Richard.
All right. We'll take a break and be back right after this. Don't go away.
Listen, everyone needs a co-conspirator to reimagine their lives and uncover the opportunities in the challenges they face. If you are looking for the place where hope meets possibility and you are ready to create a life of meaning despite the diagnosis, look no further. Helen is a certified professional coach with a background in medical research and an autoimmune diagnosis who brings compassion, empathy, and your best interests to every conversation. Learn more about coaching with Helen at helensampsonmullen.com.
We're back. All right. I need your help with something. So every time we have an in-person guest, we have these little microphones, right? And my guest always sounds great. And I always sound like I am blowing my nose in the microphone, and I don't understand why. I love doing the show. I love making it as complicated as I possibly can, but I know nothing about microphones, lightings, cameras, so don't ever come to me for those things. And so I really don't like this thing in my way, but just there's a microphone attached to it. This literally does nothing. But when I clip it onto my shirt, I feel like it doesn't sound good. So I did a video this morning before the show, and I want you to watch it and listen and tell me which one sounds better. I think I know which one does, but I want help with this to make sure I'm doing this correctly because I don't know anything. So just, it's like a minute long. Just watch this video, listen, don't watch me. I'm literally in a robe. Okay. All right, this is me in my robe, testing microphones to see if this sounds better or worse than having it in front of me. I don't really know. I would like to know if it picks up my nose sounds. So let's see what that does. And then I feel like this is where it's supposed to go. I don't know. Feels appropriate to have it here, but maybe I'm wrong. All right, now I'm going to move it to the microphone. So here we go. All right, here is my voice on the microphone. How does that sound? This is me. We have an hour before a show, and this is when I try to fix things, because that seems really smart. All right, let's take a look. All right, I don't know why. To me, the second one, like when it's on here, sounds better than on here, but why is the question? And when a guest has it on their lapel, sounds great. These are things that keep me up at night, and I don't know the answer to them. So if someone knows, please comment, send in something, send me a letter, write me an email, because I don't understand it. Let's do a view count as of this morning before the show. Reggie, let's see how many views and downloads of the show we're at so far. That's right, 231,408. And around here, every view counts. So I love all 8 of you that joined the last time. So thank you all so much. Now's a good time to just share the show and get to the next 1,000 by tomorrow's show. I've had a goal of starting the year off with 100,000 views starting January 1st. And we're already at 231. So how did that happen? All thanks to you, the viewer, the listeners. So I appreciate it. We get to bring you amazing people every day. And I'm so glad that y'all are watching. What else do I have to tell you? I have a clip of the new Gorilla HR podcast that I helped produce and edit. It premiered this week. Becky was on the show on Monday here in the studio, sounding fantastic. And it's available, wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. So take a look. If you're an employer or an employee, it's a really good podcast for you to listen to.
Management used to be, you were just there to manage them, right? And it was only about, here's the task, here's what you need to do for work, here's the deadlines, etc. You either do it or you don't do it. Now, management has turned into, how do we educate those new hires and how do we teach them how to be an actual employee and how to be successful in doing that? So it starts with having that conversation with management and helping them to understand your job's very different than it was 20 years ago or 30 years ago. You now have to be able to teach them things like resiliency. How do we present in a meeting? How do we dress for work? What's appropriate? What isn't appropriate? I actually saw a video the other day of a girl who took a picture of herself and was crying on the video because she didn't get the job. And she wanted feedback to the world because, of course, it's TikTok generation of what did I do wrong?
All right, Gorilla HR, the podcast, available everywhere. There's the YouTube channel right there on your screen. It's a great podcast. Comes out every Monday. The first 3 episodes premiered this week. All right, I got to go because I'm also recording with Introspection from Grief to Growth, which is a podcast I help produce. So we got to go do that. I thank you all for watching. Go make your day richer. Go make somebody else's day richer. You've made mine by watching this show, and I love you for it. On tomorrow's show, all new with screenwriter Stephanie Aycock and the author of You're Making This Way Too Hard, which I love that title, Angelo Valenti will be here. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.